Hello and welcome to third episode of Perspectives with PL. And guess what? This is on the Women's Day, and with me today my guest is none other than Economic Times Business Women of the Year, Business Leader of the Year, award winner, and many such several award winner, Mrs. Suneeta Reddy, Managing Director of Apollo Hospitals. And before I say hello to her, I think she deserves few steps. So in last 10 years, as Mrs. Reddy was the Managing Director at Apollo Hospital, Apollo Hospitals gave all the investors a CAGR of 18%. This is no mean achievement at a time when Nifty itself gave just about less than 10%. Her earnings grew far in excess of what the earnings growth for Nifty companies is in last 10 years. And the real wealth unlocker, wealth creation, is in her ROE. ROE journey in last 10 years is from 11% to 21%. This is an unbelievable achievement, Suneeta, and I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
And the first thing that we would start with is, what is it that you do and you did to unlock this potential of Apollo Hospital as a company, as an investment for all the investors?
On a day-to-day basis, I don't look at all the stakeholders. My primary vision is for the patients. And I think the focus on patients and seeing that, we grow the number of patients we treat. So scaling the business, moving into new cities, making sure we win from a market share point of view, and most importantly, keeping that clinical DNA as sacrosanct. We make sure that whatever we do, the clinical outcomes are world class. And truly, if you focus on what you do and whether you look at it as a business or the purpose that you bring to the business, I'm sure that the revenues come, the profits come, and performance improves.
I so agree with you. The purpose is all that matters, and then I'm sure there will be hours and hours of hard work. And since this is our particular Women's Day special, I would also like to touch upon what is it as a women leader that you think differently in making this such a big memo, which is entered as one of the only company from hospitals into Nifty50. That's also a no mean achievement.
So when I think of what I did differently, I think it came very naturally to me. And part of what comes very naturally to me is to keep learning. So in the process of learning, you're becoming the best version not only of yourself, but you're pushing the company to become the best version of the healthcare deliverer, not only in India but for Asia. So your vision expands. So I think I have that learning mindset, and I continue till today. I continue to be a student. The second is that all of us are driven by a purpose, and I've said that earlier. So my team comes to work thinking, okay, let's push the revenue, but what can we do to make it better? For the company, for each of the stakeholders, and the primary stakeholder is the patient and the doctor, and the secondary is the doctors. So how can we make their life better? And the lesson that I had from COVID was simply amazing, because all of them came to work, in spite of fear, of everything that was going around them. And it was a really, really difficult time. From a company point of view, we were barely making revenues, but we had enough to make salaries. They were prepared to take salary cuts, but they were there. They were performing. They were coming to the office every day, and they were turning up to do their work every day in the hospital, whether it was the hospital or the office. And I think that that really moved me. It's so there's a lot of happiness that you get from work. There's real joy in coming to work because you think there's something good that we do every day.
Absolutely. So just to also tell you, we all know that healthcare is a very important industry in India from the perspectives of the lifestyle of people, but also from the perspectives of employment.
Yes.
And as healthcare, we cover not only hospitals, which is of course is a very big part of the healthcare industry, which is almost like $400 billion. 70% comes from hospitals. Next 20% roughly is about from pharma. And the rest 10% comes from diagnostic, medical equipment, and so on. And over your tenure, from one hospital business, you have spearheaded and touched almost all the other sides of the business. So how did you visualize that? What all did you add into your business, and what is your plan going forward?
So yes, the figure you said was very correct. Healthcare is $156 billion, and people really give $70 billion of Indian pharma so much more importance than they give healthcare.
True.
So those facts are right. But I think the credit for creating integrated healthcare offering should really go to my father, because he worked in the US and he looked at HCA, which at that time was integrated healthcare. And then they, of course, disrupted it and went back into hospitals. But my father had a clear vision, and my sisters were there to help build it up. So primarily our journey was to take healthcare closer to the patient. So with that in mind, we started the retail version of it, which is clinics and diagnostics, which is Apollo Health and Lifestyle. Along with the hospital, my father felt, I don't want my patients to get spurious or outdated medications.
Correct.
So he started, the pharmacy was started, and one sister took it over. So we do have an integrated healthcare offering, and our success is really that, we've been able to meet these challenges, because if you look at whether it's the pharmacy, it was the unorganized sector, and Shobhana went ahead and said, organize the unorganized sector. And the same about Sangeeta, we're looking at setting up primary care so that people don't have to step into a hospital for a cough or a cold. It was a big challenge in those days, and with telemedicine, she actually took it into the homes of the patient. And my elder sister is a clinical advocate, so she's very passionate about innovation and bringing doctors into the system. So I think it was a captain, my father, and a team with four of us that really helped to create an integrated.
What a lucky father. You four sisters, are an example that anywhere, anybody, any father feels that I don't have a son, you all are an answer.
I have to tell you a secret.
Please.
My father wanted a son, and that is why he got four daughters. And his first grandchild was also a daughter.
But he better accept that daughters are better than son now.
Now he has seven grandsons, so
yes,
so we're equal.
No, but the fact is, I have my own doubts. If he had four sons so peacefully, they would have furthered his ambition and his dream and created India's best healthcare company.
Well,
the whole credit goes to all you four sisters.
Lucky gene pool. But he was the one who was passionate about healthcare, and we grew up in that environment of wanting.
But this is quite an achievement, and all four sisters are active in the business.
Yes.
And have created such a professional organizations despite being at the helm run by the family.
We couldn't have done it without a professional team. It's one thing to have a vision, but it's very important that you have a professional team to execute it. And the larger you go, the more professional you need to be. And I think we were so lucky to be able to attract the best talent.
So as I understand, from here on, there are many growth drivers for Apollo as a company. One, of course, you all are adding rooms. So from 8,000, I guess you all are going right up to 10,000. So that itself is a good growth in numbers. I also believe that currently your utilizations are around 65-67%. And going up to say 74-75 could be one more kicker in the overall revenue growth and of course margin growth. Your pharmacy business has been doing very well, which is the offline, and online can probably grow a bit much faster, but also stop bleeding as aggressively as it is doing right now to make its foothold. So when you take this as a combine, do you think that last 10 years, 18% CAGR, you're going to beat it in next 10 years?
Of course.
Oh, that's
we
wonderful.
Have to. We can never be incremental about growth. That would be the end of a vision. So, of course, we're going to keep that growth at 15 to 20%. And each of the verticals have a different pace of growth.
Correct.
Because hospitals is a large base. So we are adding 2,000 beds at the cost of 3,000. We're investing 3,000 crores into just adding beds.
Correct.
And like you said about occupancy, it is a trigger to improvement in both EBITDA margin and absolute profitability. So we are pushing asset utilization across the group, and I think that that effort will play out over the next year, where you will see that. In Apollo Health and Lifestyle, they are focusing on core of diagnostics, and the clinics, which are really, preventive healthcare, is going to become exceedingly important, not just for the individual but for the country. Because if you look at healthcare, most of the spends happen at the end of the continuum. And this is what, our fathers always believed. No country can afford to treat all this. So the more we do towards keeping people healthy, we will really contribute to the economy, to the health of a nation. And for Apollo, I think 20% of our revenues should come from this preventive healthcare space, and the clinics will play a huge role along with the diagnostics in delivering that.
That's fantastic.
And the pharmacies, they're on track for 10,000 crores of revenue for offline and 1,500 crores of GMV for online. So I think they'll exceed their targets.
Wow.
So with all this, I think we can expect to see high growth from all these verticals.
Absolutely. But it is such a pleasure to know that a highly qualified promoter family, very successful, and continues to remain married to the purpose. Whenever you're not talking about the purpose also, I see the purpose of doing things which has been instilled in you by your father. Also, can you just take me through some very specific dilemmas that you faced as a managing director, either in taking some tough decisions, be it for capital allocation, be it for people management? Any such things that probably kept you awake in the night before taking that decision?
I think the challenge is finding the right balance between capital investment, return, and most importantly, the clinical outcome that it would serve. So that is a lesson that I learned maybe 7 to 8 years ago. That it's not just about, it is about ROE, because you get that at the end of the day when you do something good. But we had this huge investment in Proton, which is cutting edge radiation treatment, and that whole project cost was 1,200 crores. And I said, one machine, which is 500 crores plus 150 beds, I said, how will this ever make money? And my father said, you have to do it. So, and I think he took this call for the greater good. And it's taught me a lesson. I did have a dilemma. I said, how am I going to raise this money? And for 3 years, our share was in a bad place, People
Because
kept
the
thinking
return got
Apollo is,
studied.
people kept thinking Apollo is investing in this high-end medical equipment. It doesn't know what it's doing. But we knew that what we were doing was providing the best possible cancer treatment available in Southeast Asia, not just in India. So having that larger vision of creating something that was good, not just for India, but for across the world, is something that I learned. And in the end, when you do something good, it pays, there's a payback.
Correct.
And most important, you don't expect it. And when it comes, it's a wonderful surprise and a learning also for me.
True. So similar new journey you started sometime in last 2-3 years of online pharmacy. So with what vision you started, how's that market shaping up? And how do you plan to navigate this new challenge that you've taken?
So online, yes, it's a challenge because if you look at the competition and the way they're doing it, it's a deep discounting model. And for us, it was never about deep discounting because whenever we started something, we were talking about patient journeys.
Exactly.
And making it easier, making it be easier for them.
Exactly.
So the online version of Apollo, which we call 24/7, represents just not pharmacy online, but it has teleconsults, and we do about 3,000 a day. It also has diagnostics, where we again have crossed that milestone over 3,000 a day. So if you look at the number, we serve about 50,000 people every day on the digital platform, the online pharmacy. So the numbers are growing, 20 million downloads. And I think it's played out to the central mission, to the theme and central mission of Apollo, which is deliver outstanding care. The focus is on the patient and improve that patient journey. And I believe that no organization has the right to exist in this future, in this decade, without having a digital version. Whether it's digital within your office or whether it's digital in the form where a consumer can access you. So it was all about access for the consumer. True. And I think that this will only improve because we are working on adding more offerings to 24/7.
Lovely, lovely. So 2 messages I want. One is for women. All those who have a lot of aspirations, a lot of dreams, but somehow, globally also, women in boards represent just about 11%. Women in top management, CXO positions also is about 10-11%. India is no different. It's a very different thing that you have a board very heavy with women.
Yes.
More than 50%, I guess.
Yes.
But what is the one message you would like to give to all women on this Women's Day? What should they do to achieve their dreams?
I think that one message would be don't compete on gender. Compete with knowledge, compete with skill, and compete with the passion to do what you want to do. Because I think that is exceedingly important. When I win these women awards, I always tell my team, thank you. But the day they say that you're winning it not because you're a woman, but because you've done it well, is the day that I think women should look forward to.
I totally agree. And one very important thing, as we know, healthcare industry employs a lot of people. It generates a lot of employment. But above all, it generates a lot of employment for women.
Yes.
The way we see that in India still, it's just about 10 beds for about 10,000 people as compared to the global best of about 30 beds for 10,000 people. So there is huge scope for improving the standard of living or standard of healthcare in India.
Yes.
And above all, for the most of you to grow, the healthcare industry to grow. What is it that government needs to do to help support this cause, which A, improves the lifestyle of people, but also generates enough employment?
I could take 10 minutes on that. So let me
All
see.
yours.
No. Let me see how I can keep it short. So clearly, I think what the government did for IT, if you look at Infosys and all the big companies that not only earn foreign exchange but provide employment, the government gave them land, they gave them tax exemption. I'm not asking for tax exemption because, it's okay, we can pay taxes. But the cost of land in a hospital project is about 50% of the cost.
Mm.
So I think allocation of land is something that is very important. Recognizing that healthcare is not just an infrastructure play, but recognizing that it is social, that it's required for the country, and therefore give us infrastructure status at least. The third is, look at the taxation. For example, in GST, we have no set off on the input taxes. So we are negative. Either we should be 0 or we should be 5 or we should be 12. But give us that, I think that give us a level playing field with every industry instead of, putting us 5 steps back. For healthcare to succeed, they do need an impetus by the government. And the fact that we're doing, we attract patients from 147 countries.
Exactly.
There is so much we can do for the country. There's so much more that we can do for India because, like you said, India needs beds, and beds is all about infrastructure.
Correct.
So give it that recognition and give it the help that it needs in terms of, land allocation.
So as we know, Mr. Modi has a very respectable dream, which all of us are proud of, to be a developed nation by 2047, which means that we have to reach this world average in terms of our healthcare industry. And above all, he has a dream of making India the healthcare hub. So I think that I will tag our conversation and particularly your demands during this conversation, and the way he's proactive. I'm very sure this is one industry which can generate huge employment, and it is a very multiplier impact in the economy.
It really is, because not only for jobs, where one job in healthcare creates 4 others outside, and also for healthcare suppliers. So for every dollar spent here, there's $4 that are being earned in other industries. So I have to say that, the government understands this. They've been fully supportive of the healthcare industry. But I think a little bit more, that trigger.
That little out of the way, then that can really push the growth to next level.
A windfall of benefits for the country, for the population. And the second aspect is if they could do something for insurance, and this is what they recommended, that the premiums going up to 50,000 be tax exempt, and the burden of having to pay out of pocket is no longer there. People will have access, so create access through insurance. And the government has done it with Ayushman Bharat. So if they could do this, so the middle class would have access without being out of pocket, would be very good.
Very crucial for the lifestyle of people at large and safety of, frankly, their savings. Because anytime an unplanned, and which is always unplanned, health issue comes up, you you completely lose your savings, which is very good for our nation as such to increase our penetration in Mediclaim or healthcare insurances. And with that note, I want to tell all our viewers that she has her grandson's birthday tomorrow, but she looks like giving a run for her money to any model, and she looks that young, that powerful, and that influential. Thank you so much for spending your time.
Thank you. You are so kind. I have to say that before you came in, my team said, she looks really powerful. So I said, she is powerful. Every woman is powerful, and a woman with knowledge is even more powerful. But thank you. I truly appreciate the effort that you've put into understanding the healthcare industry.
Thank you so much.